Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education and Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and local partner Sprocket Innovation in Paducah and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. Welcome back to episode 215. This would be our snow day episode. We are operating remotely because of the snow at Murray State. So we're doing this from my home office today. But anyway, we started a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, talking about some of the best practices. First, we talked about what those minimum standards should look like, and then we jumped into the why, the business component side of things, the ROI that the hackers think about, the cost benefit analysis, all that. Today, I want to start getting into some of the actual standard components themselves. And while step zero is create a policy, I want to skip that and talk about passwords today. Passwords are really one of the things, I'll say the first line of defense. Maybe it's the second line of defense. It depends on how you want to define it. But passwords are really important. Everything that you do has a password. So what are you doing to protect yourself? How are you making passwords? Are you doing multi-factor authentication? Are you using password vaults? There's so many different things that we can talk about, but I want to start off by talking about what a strong password looks like. Now, we want to use long passwords. Now, is it a password? Is it a passphrase? That people define them different ways, but the point of this is that an 8-character password several years ago would have been sufficient. It's not sufficient anymore. We need something that's longer than that. And we don't need to reuse them. Never reuse a password. And the reason is, and it's a long, complicated piece, but it's that if there's a password um, um, breach where passwords are stolen from one website, they can be used on another website. So if your credit card company had a data breach and your password got stolen, then they could turn around and use it for your email if it's the same password. So you don't want to do that. But you want a long, unique password. And if you have a bunch of passwords, now I'm telling you to remember a bunch of passwords that are going to be really hard to remember. And most people struggle with that. So what do? You can use a password manager. Now, hopefully, you're securing those securely as well, storing those securely as well. Um, Now you only have to remember one or two passwords instead of two or 300 passwords, and then also two-factor authentication. But we'll get into that. Let me start off with ways to make a good password. Now, all right, my family likes these TV shows. Don't judge me. You can judge us if you want, but it's not very nice. But Outer Banks and Yellowstone, those are two TV shows. Yes, one is on Netflix, one is on Paramount. They're very different types of genres, but in Outer Banks, that's the name of the show. In Yellowstone, there's a thing called the train station. Now, it's actually a really bad thing, but it's a big part of the show. And so those are two very different things that you wouldn't necessarily put together. But if you took those two things and put them together, Outer Banks of the train station, that's a super long password. I don't know how many characters that is. It's probably 20 some odd characters long. Outer Banks of the train station. You're not going to think about all those words together. A bad guy is not going to have, oh, let me see if their password is Outer Banks of the train station. That's not something that they would think about. So if you use this as your password now, clearly don't use this one because this was my example. But if you were going to use something like this as a password, it is, and this website, security.org/how secure is my password, tells me that it is 100 quintillion years is the length that it would take for you to guess this password. That's pretty good. And it's easy for me to remember. Outer Banks of the train station. Outer Banks of the train station. It is all real words. I don't have any special characters. I don't have any numbers. I don't have any capital letters. And that's okay because the length is so long. It is so many characters long that that makes up for these special characters and all the different things that often you're being asked to do. And if this were your password, it is strong enough that if it is unique and you don't get a notification about it being stolen, that you could probably just keep using it. It's not something that every 4 months you need to change your password. This one's a really good password. Now, again, the disclaimer, it is not a good password because it's being streamed online in a demonstration. So don't use this one. But in theory, if I didn't share this with others and tell people to use this, it would be a password that would be strong. So that is kind of a good way for you to think about a password and how to do that. The second piece is, in addition to a strong, unique password, you need a way to store them securely. Now, these are not my passwords. This is a demo graphic that I took off of Google, but this one is one password. This is actually the one that I have used. But what a password vault is, a password manager, something so that you can securely store all of your unique passwords. If I'm asking you to have strong, unique passwords, then you're going to have strong, unique passwords. And so that's a challenge. And I'm pulling mine up. I'm not showing it to you, but I'm just pulled mine up. I have over 800 unique passwords. I can't remember all of those. So, how do I store them? I store them with a password manager. Now, I do it securely. I store it in a way and in a place that is secure. I actually don't even use their vault or their storage. I have a different place that I store it. Anyway, it's safe. It is way safer than you reusing passwords. That's really the whole point of this. So I would encourage you to do the same thing as well. Um, the reusing of passwords really diminishes how strong your password is. All right. And then the last part, two-factor authentication. So briefly, a a password is one factor that you use to prove you are who you say you are. It is one factor that says this is something I know, this is something that this user claims to know. So if somebody knows that password, then that means they must be that user. But if I stole your password, then in theory I would know it, but I'm not the user. So using a second factor would help to validate that I am who I say I am. So factors include something you know, something you are, some place that you are, something you have. There's a lot of those pieces that you can use. A phone, for example, would be a second factor. Your password is something you know. A phone is something you have. If you'll go back in time, we used to use little key fobs that would help us to have a number on there, and you'd put in your password, and you have to put in that number, and it would be something that you have because it would be that key fob. It's the same idea now, but with your phone. So Google can do it, Facebook can do it, Twitter can do it. There's a lot of Microsoft uses two-factor authentication. There's a lot of tools out there that can do this very inexpensively, if not free. What I would encourage you to do is to go to your bank, your credit card, your email, your social media accounts, your school accounts if you're in school, your work accounts if you're at work, everywhere, and turn on and enable two-factor authentication. The last thing I'll say about two factor authentication, and then we'll stop here for the day, is that there's a lot of different ways that you can do two factor authentication. You can have it through an app like Google Authenticator, you can have it texted to you, emailed to you. There's a number of different ways to do it. Typically, it is most secure if you use an app like Google Authenticator or Duo Security. Something like that is a little harder to fake than if you're just doing a text message. It's not impossible to fake, but it's a little harder for somebody to fake that. But irregardless, all of them are better than doing nothing. So two-factor authentication is a must. It's going to stop and eliminate so many attacks against you if you set up and enable two-factor authentication. Anyway, I hope this helps. I hope you found this interesting. If you have questions, as always, please reach out to me. I'm happy to answer the questions, particularly about passwords and two-factor authentications and password managers. This is so important that I want you to do it. If you have questions, please reach out and let me know. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week back here on 10 at 10. Thank you. Bye.